As we go through life, most of us try so hard to avoid the inevitable. Fear. But there are a few brave souls that seek only this fear, like those of you who clicked on this video. For that, I thank you. But by the end, you won't be thanking me. So lock your doors, bar your windows, turn out the lights, and prepare for the evil horror of Y2K by The Shadow. Now relax. This won't hurt too much. The message appeared on the computer screen, same as it had for the last 3 days since the incident. John was a successful computer programmer in the early days of the internet boom, and had moved up the ladder in his company to the position of senior exec. He had been promoted, much to his chagrin, just as a radical new project he had theorized neared completion, causing it to be handed to the next most skilled programmer in line, which had led to the ultimate failure of that project not but 2 weeks after the transfer of information. John sat at his computer, wondering what to do and wondering why that system error message just sat blaring in front of him. Had this been even 10 years ago at the time of his promotion, he would have just typed a few keys and everything would be back to normal. But 10 long years of delegation and keeping your thumb up your ass to occupy your time does rather detrimental things to your genius grasp on technology. The message before him on the computer monitor baffled him beyond all reason. 3 days ago, when all this started, he turned on the computer to that message, and then, with his prior knowledge having failed him, he went to one of the many filing cabinets that lined the walls in his office, and opened the file drawer labeled Notes. After flipping through all 12 notebooks from his university training, he figured he could set things right. But time and age and messy handwriting can be a harsh mistress, as the moment he turned back towards his computer, all possible solutions went out the window along with the smoke from the cigarette resting on the edge of the overflowing ashtray. He then made his first mistake, just trying to wing it and randomly mashing the keyboard. This only resulted in a brief flash of glue on the monitor and then the screen going black. Rising quickly from his squeaky chair with frustration evident in his movements, he knocked over the ashtray, sending a cloud of ash through the already polluted air, along with a mass stampede of singed butts that rolled and tumbled every which way across the yellowing carpet. This act of clumsiness sent him into a fit of rage, and he stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him, all the while forgetting about the lit cigarette that was now getting intimate with his already yellow carpet. It was a few hours later that John awoke to the smell of a fire. It was the acrid tang that emanated from the door of his bedroom that sent him into a panic, for it was far too different, too foreign than the otherwise overpowering stench of cigarette smoke that usually invaded his home. He grabbed the bedroom extension and quickly called the fire department, who showed up late, as usual, most of the fellows looking very tired, or even possibly hungover. They quickly extinguished the small blaze that turned the nicotine yellow of the office carpet into a much more appealing shade of black. Once the fire was out, all the emergency personnel just turned and left without uttering a single word, which rekindled John's earlier anger. But he was far too drowsy to do anything except retreat back to his room, where he fell into a deep sleep. John awoke refreshed and somewhat happy the next morning without much clue as to why. The answer came to him when he flicked the switch on the coffee maker and walked over to the fridge, where the calendar showed the day to be Saturday. With a now steaming cup of black coffee in hand, he made his way back to the office, smiling at the now blackened carpet. Sitting in his chair with a slight slosh, he powered up the computer to be greeted by the same message again. Now with a clearer mind, John weighed his options. Option 1, trying to solve the problem himself, was off the table, due to the events of yesterday. Option 2 seemed more logical, to call the local computer repair shop and see if they could come out and at least do a diagnosis. It was settled. He would make the call. He sighed with exasperation as he only got the answering machine, it being Saturday and the shop being only open Monday through Friday becoming more apparent as he hung up the phone. He shut the computer down and decided to take a better look at his notes. He scanned the desk for the stack of notebooks and realized he had put them back in their place in the filing cabinet. Looking around for the notes label, that's when he spotted the drawer held shut with a padlock. There was no label on this drawer, but the second that he saw it, he knew what it was. His original project research notes. The idea of a possible solution to his problem being somewhere within that drawer caused a smile to appear across his face, and he went to the front door and grabbed his keyring from the table next to the door. Re-entering the office, John lit a cigarette, and without much looking, located the correct key that would grant him access to the locked drawer. After unlocking it, he momentarily walked off and stood the ashtray back up, as to not cause another fire or add some gray to the black carpet at his feet. Returning to the filing cabinet, John removed the dangling padlock and, after a moment of hesitation, slowly pulled the drawer open. The smell of old paper and a small amount of dust greeted him upon opening the drawer. He pulled out the main notebook, glancing upon it for the first time in 10 years. Flipping to a random page, he noted that the writing seemed more rushed and frantic as it progressed. He flipped the page, and the writing became illegible at the end, save for one word, written heavily in red ink: Eureka. Over the next hour, John pored over the information in the drawer. Much to his dismay, he found no possible hints of a solution to the problem at hand, but by the end, that was a mere afterthought. All of the memories previously lost had returned in a whirlwind, prompting John to stub out his current cigarette, change out of his wet clothes, and get in the car to make the drive to the office, neglecting to even lock the front door behind him. When he arrived at the office, he noted with irritation at the absence of the ever-present security guard. What he failed to notice, as he walked past the security desk, was that all of the video monitors displayed line, and the lone computer system displayed operating system. He pressed the button and the elevator doors opened, and he entered, inserting the key that would grant him access to the exec offices on the top floor. Striking a match across the sign that prohibited smoking, he lit a cigarette, exhaling blue smoke up towards the ceiling. There was a muted ding as the elevator reached his floor, and he exited, carelessly putting the smoke out on the elevator floor as he did so. He walked past all of the offices to a drab metal door marked Storage. He tried the handle and found it unlocked, much to his annoyance. Bill and Sheila had been using this storage room as their little love nest, not too subtly, for the past few months, and while everyone knew about it, no one had the guts to rat them out to the big boss. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered briefly, and John walked over to the far rear corner where the oldest records and such were stored. John smirked at the pile of blankets next to the long-forgotten filing cabinets that contained all of the notes on his project, codenamed Vista, a loose acronym for some random thought, perhaps about his boss at the time. The phrase then came to him: Victor is such a total asshat. He chuckled as more memories were stirred with that memory, and set a large cardboard box next to the two filing cabinets that contained his former life's work. He meticulously sorted the files from each drawer, keeping the respective ones in their original order. As he walked back to the elevator, he kept stopping to rest every few moments, as the now full cardboard box was proving very challenging for him to carry. Pressing the button to open the elevator, he raised an eyebrow as the doors did not immediately open, as it seemed that he was the only one in the building. Maybe the security guard had left his post to do some sort of check on another floor, and being the lazy slob he was, decided to take the elevator back down instead. The doors eventually opened and he dragged the box inside, pressing the main button. Later, at home, he began to sort through all the paperwork, skimming through his original notes leading up to the project transfer, but slowing down when he reached the new guy's notes. Within the first paragraph, John immediately knew why the project had halted. Dropping the file back onto the desk, he sighed, leaned back, and put his feet up. He was deep in thought about what the Eureka in his notes meant. As the flame on his lighter met with the tip of his cigarette, it suddenly came to him. He flicked the lighter closed and exhaled the smoke. It was as if someone had jabbed him with a live wire. He looked to the floor beneath his desk and located his briefcase, where a crummy, work-issued laptop resided, waiting for someone to give it life once again. He roughly grabbed it and set it on the desk, opened it, and powered it up. The laptop happily booted up and displayed the password screen. John typed his usual password in, resulting in an error. He repeated this process several times to no avail, and then recalled that if he had an internet connection, he could completely bypass the password. He reached under the desk and unplugged the network cable from his PC and inserted it into the port on the laptop. It immediately began spazzing out, and when the deluge of static and blue screen ceased, one thing remained on the screen. Operating system? Come 6:30 a.m., John had only gotten up once to grab a bottle of scotch and the pistol from the shoebox in his closet. At that moment that the error message had appeared, he realized what he had done. The haze of the days leading up to the initial incident became clear. It hadn't been 3 days of that error message, it had been 4. The first day being the day he remembered everything in the project and decided to complete it. It was an early form of supervirus that was capable of frying the OS of every computer worldwide with an internet connection. The project had been shut down due to the virus being illogical to unleash all those years ago, with computers with an internet connection being few and far between. After countless packs of cigarettes and time, he'd successfully tinkered with the programming code and, with no hesitation, set the virus loose on the world. A tear rolled down his cheek as he tilted his head upward and placed the end of the gun to his chin, noting the date on the calendar to be January 3rd, 2000.